And good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. This is a semi impromptu episode of I Need Coffee. And I have kind of a cool story. And I think it's mind blowing. You may find it meh, but especially the people who have developed with Nav and BC for a long time, they will not be terribly impressed. But for those of you who come from a more traditional development background, I find this kind of shocking. And I was just kind of speechless when I stumbled across this last night or did this exercise last night. And so, with that, let me just jump into it if I can figure out what screen I'm on. Um, let's do that one. Okay, so here's the context. Um, I wanted to do a simple Business Central AL project. I wanted something simple enough that I could, wouldn't have to figure out all the requirements and do a design. And one of the common, let me turn this down a little. One simple, obvious customer requirement is to add a custom field to a window, for instance. And this is a common request in the Dynamics GP world, and that you can do that through code or third-party tools. But it's a simple one I think we all understand. So here I have my Business Central Docker server. I have a few containers set up, and I have Visual Studio Code. And so I'm just going to walk through the process and pretend I do not know what I'm doing, which is not a stretch because the first time I did this was last night. So this is all kind of on the fly impromptu. And the point of this is to demonstrate how simple and easy it is relatively to create a Business Central extension that adds real business value. And this isn't academic. This is a pretty common request. So, okay, so I've got Visual Studio Code up. Press F1. Actually, let me start up this fancy tool that Jeremy Viska told me about, Karnak. Let's see if it works. It doesn't work for F keys. Okay, so F1, AL go. Excuse me. And I'm going to call this custom customer fields. And I'm going to target my BC17 release. And the clock is ticking. My host is dev17. And there we go. So now I'm going to make this startup object ID 21, which I believe is the customer card window. I'm going to save that. Okay. Now, I'm not going to do a hello world, so I'm just going to delete that file. Now, I have an extension called, I believe it is this one that I'm going to be using, the AZ AL Dev Tools Code Outline, which has 1,000 features in it. So I'm going to go back to my files, right click, new AL file wizard. I don't even have to create the file manually. So what do I want to do? Well, I learned that if I want to create a page extension with fields, custom fields in there, I think the easiest way is a table extension. So let's start with a table extension. And let me see if I can get through this. So my object name, and again, don't know what I'm doing here, so excuse me, I'm going to call this custom, let's see, customer custom fields. Okay, extends customer. Oh, I don't think I have my symbols. So let's do that. Let's download symbols from my environment. Symbols downloaded. Okay, let's try it again now. Oh, of course. Okay, let me try this again. See if maybe I just need to do it again. Of course, it's going to make a fool out of me. Table extension. Customer custom fields. This worked last night. Extends. There we go. I just had to close it, reopen it. Extends customer. And this is a concept which is obvious to Nav BC developers coming from outside of that world, like in the Dynamics GP world. We don't really have this concept, at least not as far as I'm aware. We need to do a custom table to store these custom fields in one form or another. We have to have a way to store these custom fields in the database. So I'm going to extend customer. and I'm just going to avoid 1010, and I'm just going to call this custom string 1 because I'm very creative, and this is a text field. Now, this actually took me more time last night to go find the list of data types for Business Central, because I couldn't find the web page for some reason, than it did to actually write the code. So I think I spent 10 minutes trying to figure out what data type I wanted to use and roughly 5 minutes creating this. And I'm going to call this customer content. And let's get really crazy. Let's call this custom string 2 because 1 is never enough. And so here I'm using this VS Code extension to just create this table extension for me. I'm not having to actually write the syntax for the page or table extension. So let's do one more, custom string 3, and you know what? Let's make them different lengths. Let's just see what that looks like. Let's do 10, let's do 30, and let's do 50. And let's get creative and let's do custom int 1. And this is an integer. Okay. Now, I don't know if my my Docker container has a license file, but we'll find out. Custom date 1. This is a date. Okay, so I've added several custom fields to this table extension. I'm going to click finish. Voila, magic. It just created this for me. Now, there are probably some things that could be done better or ways of refining this, adding additional field or table extension properties. I haven't looked into that yet. But the point is, how quick was that? Now, for me to do this in, say, SQL Server manually, you can type that into Management Studio, but then you have your table scripts, you have to worry about deployment, management, security, all these other factors. Here, boom, I'm kind of done in my simple scenario. So I'm going to save that. So now I've got custom string 123, custom int 1, custom date. Okay, let's keep it rolling. I'm going to do a new file. This time I'm going to do a page extension based on that table extension. So I want to call this customer custom fields. And yes, I know there's a naming convention. I haven't learned that yet. So extends customer card. Boom. Okay. Now this one, not terribly exciting. It just creates this stub for you. But I now see that I want to do an, you know what? I'm gonna have to pull this up because I don't remember the syntax. But if I can find the syntax, so Business Central, and this is kind of how quickly you can figure it out, even if you don't know what you're doing. Page extension. So I'm just Googling this. I'm going to pull up the page extension object and look at their example. And so we have a layout section. And you can have different layout options that determine where your page extension objects are located on the page. So let's do add, actually, let me just pull up my BC container here and I'll show you what that looks like. Let's do dev 17. Okay, I don't want updates, go away. Come on. Okay, so I'm modifying the customer cards because I want to add fields to it. And so the layout is essentially letting me say where I want these fields to appear. So I'm going to go to customers. I'm going to just pull up a customer card. And of course I have the, oh, okay, the workbench is gone. So there's my general, my address. I'm going to put it after the shipping fast tab. So there is a add after shipping. And you notice IntelliSense just picks this up. It's like magic. Okay, add after shipping. What do I want to add? Well, I want to add a new fast tab. So I'm going to call that a group, and I'm going to call that custom fields. And I think I can never remember whether it's parentheses or quotation marks. must be quotation marks. They're used, I haven't figured that out yet. Okay, I can never know. Come on. Okay, so we have a group called custom fields. Well, now I want to add a page field. And I'm going to use Waldo's simplified version of this. My field is custom string 1. Come on. And T page field. Okay, there it is, semicolon. So custom string 1, custom string 1. It already knows. I haven't compiled, I haven't published. It just scans the AL files. It knows I have a table extension for this page. It's like magic, custom string 1. Okay, application area all, field property name, I'm going to skip that. And this was the hardest part. I had to copy and paste, change this to 2 and 3. And so that is customizing the page. So I'm just going to get super fancy. I'm going to go field, and let's do custom, look at that, custom date 1. Actually, I think we did custom int 1. And, oh, that's even better. It automatically does both fields for me. Or both values, I should say. And field, custom, date 1. Okay, so that quickly, I created a page extension. And I created a page extension and a table extension and a page extension. And yes, there's a comment coming in, shouldn't you add the rec? Yes, I'm going to ignore that for the time being. So again, I'm going to play the clueless noob. It's a straight roll for me. So I'm going to ignore that. And so I have saved this file. Now I'm just going to press F5. I'm going to go back here. New page loads. Goes to my customer card, and right there. I mean, I was explaining on Twitter last night, for me to do this in .NET with Dynamics GP, which is a little more work than the native Dexterity language, I'm guessing, like, if I just did it as fast as I could, maybe I could do it in less than 4 hours, just to bang it out as a demo. If I were to do this properly for a customer, take my time, have all the data access layer, error handling, record change management, it's fairly complex, and there's quite a bit of detail that needs to be done. I would estimate maybe 8 to 12 hours just for the development. This was in minutes. How long has this been going on? I've been streaming for less than 14 minutes. So this is pretty crazy. And what's even crazier is I'm going to say sample value, because I limited the length, sample value 2, sample value 3 longer string. And now I know an error is going to occur with the date, or may occur with the date. And let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just going to exit this. Then I'm going to go back into customers. I'm going to go in ADatum, and look at that. It saved the data. I didn't tell it what to do. I didn't tell it about insert, update, delete. I didn't have to write what is called the CRUD code. I didn't have to do data access layer. I didn't have to do a SQL connection. I mean, if you're coming from the .NET world like me, this is crazy. I don't even know what to say about this. Like I'm almost having a hard time calling this coding, because I used a wizard to create a table extension and then just copied and pasted a few lines for the page extension. And how do you charge for this? I'm not sure. I mean, if you do, obviously there's project management and overhead, but if this takes you 10 minutes, wow. So anyway, that was an example. I had never done this before. 9 p.m. last night. Where is this? There we go. So what else do you do at 9 p.m. on Thursday night? I wanted to create a simple Business Central extension, and I wanted to add those custom fields. And in just a few minutes, I thought this would take a couple hours for me to figure out, but nope. There you have it. And now let's get extra fancy. We already did one group for a fast tab. Let me get super fancy and let's add another group. So let's call this group string fields. Obviously, they'd be called something else for a real project, and I'm going to close that. Let's see if it formats. Cool. Automatically formats, and let's call this group integers. Okay. And then we have one last group, dates. So that lets us make it all pretty. And there we go. I'm going to just close this tab, F5 to publish. Did I hit F5? Okay, I think it's just taking a while to launch. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to click on this customer. Oh, maybe it didn't publish. F5. Control F5? Oh, I'm still debugging. Amateur move. Okay, now I'm going to do F5. It publishes, reloads the page for me, takes me right here, and custom fields. I now have nice field groups, string fields, integers, dates. And let's get super fancy. Let's say that custom string 1, I want to do, I forget the, is it importance? Is it importance? I want it to hide with the less, use the less and more. Gosh, show mandatory, show caption. Huh, which one was it? Numeric, min value, max value. I thought it was importance. Let me just Google that. Business Central AL importance. Importance property. Yes, it is. Okay. Wasn't going crazy. It just didn't give me IntelliSense. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to call this additional. Okay. I'm going to make custom string 1 additional, and I'm going to make custom int 1 additional and the date additional. So now let's control F5. Oh, got to stop the debugging. I got to figure out how to do that. I got to do publish without debugging. See, it says without debugging, but okay. So now if I go down here, I have my custom fields, and that quickly, just one line per field, I'm able to hide those in the show less mode. I can do show more, and it automatically displays those. So you can save space and kind of visual distractions on the UI. It's pretty amazing. And so I posted this on Twitter, and I got a little bit of feedback. One is, yes, it's awesome. Agree. Two is, yes, it's cool for these simple customizations to do very quickly. That is the benefit. The potential drawback is if you have a more complex UI customization you want, the tool set may not accommodate that natively. And so you may have to really work hard for some workaround to display a rich or complex UI. So I kind of get that. So this simple layout, simple tool set allows you to do things very quickly. But if you want to do something unusual, you may hit a limitation. Okay. Um, in my experience, most business applications are not terribly UI rich, for better or for worse. And so most business users do not need a very elaborate UI. So let's say if you're doing a dashboard, something highly graphical, maybe there's benefit there. But for the data entry clerk, for the day-to-day user, I think this fulfills the vast majority of those requirements. The other comment was, yes, you can do it easily, but the downside is because it's easy, people do things they maybe shouldn't. So maybe they create customizations or extensions that shouldn't be there. Or maybe they create 5 extensions when there should only be 1, whatever those scenarios are. So I get that. But, you know, that exists with any level of customization. I see complex integrations, .NET customizations, you name it, and they're not well thought out, they're poorly designed, poorly written, unmaintainable. That exists in any custom development environment. So, you know, pros and cons to all this. But for someone who's looking to provide value to a customer quickly, this is pretty amazing. I didn't have to create this entirely custom database table. I was able to do it with just a table extension. And I'm aware there's some caveats and concerns around table extensions, but just the concept of being able to do it. And I did this just because it's simple. So I thought this is a really cool demonstration of kind of the power of the AL language platform environment and what you can do with it. So yeah, start coding. Give it a try. And first time I've done it, and it didn't take that long. So anyway, I thought that was cool. And let me go back to this. So have a great weekend. It is Friday morning here for me. And so wherever you are, have a great weekend and enjoy some AL code in your free time. Okay, talk to you later.
Good morning, sun.